I just got back from a walk with Wade, and it's a little bit chilly out today. My thermometer said minus 22, that's Celsius, so I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, like minus 8. So not brutally cold, but definitely a time when you want to bundle up. And I think you can tell the real Canadians from somebody who's just a tourist, because we are in all mismatched gear. I have brown boots and my black pants that I wear for cross-country skiing, and then this burgundy base layer, which has a hood and a little face mask. And I needed it too because the breeze was a little brisk on my cheeks. And then my hat, my toque, and you might call them beanies or knit caps. They're not those things, they are toques. I'm a good Canadian and I won't call it anything else. But I wanted to talk about just the winter here, because until I started getting out and enjoying winter, I really didn't value its beauty the way I do now. I would dread it. I would get depressed when late fall would hit. November, knowing the many months of cold weather ahead. And part of that was having little kids and just knowing, you're stuck indoors a lot more when your kids are tiny. But when I started learning how to cross-country ski, and I got a pair of snowshoes, and just getting out and seeing the beauty, and as an artist, seeing how enjoying winter actually helped me be a better painter. When the snow is covering the land, the contours of the land are so much more apparent. It simplifies what you're seeing down to light and shadow. And I'm really inspired by the beauty of the winter, and it's not nearly so hard to enjoy winter when you're able to be out there enjoying the beauty. Hoping you see a little bit of that in my paintings. In the next few clips, I just want to show you some of the beauty that I've seen here in northern British Columbia and Alberta. We're right on the border, and some of the ways I paint it, how it inspires me. Maybe it will inspire you too. And if you live in an area that doesn't have these cold winters like we have, I'm sure you have something else that maybe you don't appreciate the way you could. And just by spending more time immersing yourself in that time of year, in that season, in the things that make it beautiful, you might be able to find a new appreciation of it and interpret it in your own unique artistic way. And this is small enough that I can paint it as a sketch, and yet it will look really nice framed if I decide I want to go that way. Up at the top we see the light coming through, which isn't really necessary to be painted because it is just so pale and light value that it reads as white. But I want to put a little bit of warmth up there, so we're going to use this Naples yellow. In just a small quantity, just like that. And then we're going to go straight into our next value, which is all the snow down here. And actually, there is a little bit of warmth in there too, so we're going to paint that as well. With the Naples yellow, there's a little bit of light coming down through the trees, casting on the snow. And I've started on dry paper. I like dry paper. It gives me a little more control of where the color goes. And by the time I'm done here, it's going to be wet all over. Now with the lavender, I can paint my shadows. And it doesn't need to be perfectly smooth. One thing I'm working to remember is that what I see in my picture is a simplified version of what I saw when I took this photograph. I know that my eyes see way more subtle color and value than what's being portrayed in my reference image. And so I can embellish and elaborate a little bit. I can create texture that I might not be seeing in the photograph. And there's a few little white spots showing through over here too, so we're going to leave some little dry patches in there. And then we're going to paint in our next lightest values. So we're painting the lighter values, the second lightest values really at this stage of the painting. And this is negative painting when you're looking to see paint around the light, basically. And I think that's actually the simplest definition of negative painting, is that idea of painting around the light. And I have a bit of shadow over here. I'm not liking the color that I just used, so we'll tweak a little bit. See if we can improve it. Tried the Cenarius blue and that wasn't doing it. I think I want a more violet blue. There we go. A little mixture of ultramarine and Schmincke's blue violet. And look at how pretty that is. And all my dark values in this image are up at the top of the page. Everything gets lighter down below. So for this study, I think that's as far as I can go at this point. I don't like the way the Naples, it seems to really demand the eye right here. So while it's still damp and not completely dry, I'm going to soften that spot out. And I'm also going to increase the contrast a little bit in that area, just to see if I can't get slightly better feeling of shadow and light. And I'm also adjusting, I felt like I was angling my light this way when it's actually almost coming straight down the page. While things are damp and light, it's a good time to make those adjustments. And this is my study, so this is when I get to test things out. So that means if I have an idea, it's gonna be a good time to try it now, so that when I go to do the bigger painting, I'm really just kind of working from what I already know. Because I've been tilting, my excess moisture has flowed down to the bottom of the page and I can blot that up. What's working right now is really that feeling of light coming through. I'm still not crazy about the angles I've created here. I think I still need to adjust. And the longer this takes me, the trickier it gets as the paint soaks in. But I think I can smooth out this whole area here. And create some, a little slightly deeper shadow here, which would mean the snow's slightly, maybe a little deeper in that area. Maybe a slightly deeper shadow over here. A wide brush mark to alternate with the lighter brush, narrower brush marks. I'm wondering too, and this is the time to find out, whether or not I could do some of my darks in this early stage of the painting. While I'm thinking about darks, I can also test out what kind of dark value color would be good for my trees, my dark trees. So let's try this Hematite Genuine. And all of my trees have snowy branches in front of them, so I have a huge quantity of broken lines in the tree area. So I'm trying to work with that and experiment to see if I can get away with painting just those broken lines. I'm really liking the Hematite. One of the reasons I chose Hematite Genuine, maybe if you have a brown, you would work with that instead. But the Hematite actually granulates. It creates texture as it dries. And so that gives me, you can actually see in some of these areas, there's a dark transition here where the edges are slightly darker than the center of the mark that I made, as the color is kind of moved a little bit and separated as it's dried. So I like that. I want to have snowy, shadowy branches. So branches with snow on them are going to feel, that mark was too wet, and you can see how it bled. All of these marks are pretty wet still, so they're going to be soft, and that's okay. We want that snowy tuft. And when there's snow on a branch and it's in shadow, it's going to be a blue-violet color. So this painting branches in a blue-violet color is not that far-fetched. We want that feeling of snowy trees with light shining through. So again, we don't have to paint to photographic precision. Rather, we're looking for atmosphere, creating a feeling, an emotion. Oh, I'm liking this drier brush with the hematite on it. It's making lovely marks. So this looks more like trees and bushes than this side. So I think I'm going to strengthen some of my darker marks and use that dry brush, which I'm enjoying so much. One of the things that makes this work for me as I paint this is my intimate knowledge of this scene. I'm painting a view that I see every day, depending on the weather. It doesn't always look like this, but on a winter's day when the sun is, late afternoon sun is coming through the trees on the side of the yard, this is exactly what I'm seeing. And so to paint something with that kind of depth of familiarity gives me an emotional connection that you can't fake it. And that doesn't mean that you have to know a scene intimately to have an emotional connection to it, but you should always be thinking about your feelings about the thing that you're painting and working to get that out into the scene. Sometimes our feelings about a painting, very, very frequently, and I'm liking the way I can see actually some depths here because I've used those different values of blue. But often our feelings about a painting frequently are, I don't know if I can paint this, I don't know if this is going well, oh, that's a big mistake. And so we're focused on our feelings about the painting process, the things that, or maybe our hopes and fears, rather than trying to share an experience and communicate to the viewer. Instead, we're focused on our feelings in the right now. I feel right now like I'm painting this badly. Look at how that darker mark just created some balance in the scene. This is where I'm embellishing and changing up what I'm seeing from what the reference photo is saying in order to make my painting stronger. Nice, I'm liking it. And this is just the sketch. This is the little painting. That tells me it's probably not going to go nearly so well in the big one, and that's okay. The neat thing about this right now is I have not stopped painting. I've been able to paint from that very first brush stroke without taking a break and work with the wet paper to create a scene that is really unified and soft. And I think a little bit of warm weedy color might be a good addition at this closing part of the painting. Just a little bit of warmth, and I'm keeping it light. This is raw sienna, just to paint a couple of little weeds. Another thing you could do is paint a leaf or two, a dead leaf, but maybe a little bit of raw sienna at this stage. And that will bring the eye down to the base of the trees, which we want. We want the viewer, we don't want the viewer anchored up here. We also want their eye coming down to this light path. And I think a good way to do that is by creating some warmth here, just a visual grounding. That, your eye is up here where it's warm, it comes to here, and then here it's warm as well, so there's something else to see. And I think it's working. I'm really, really happy with this. And so now I'm going to try it in a larger version right away while I'm still feeling it. Painting this successfully has really helped me to relax and feel Like I know where I'm going to go with this bigger painting. The drawback, of course, with going bigger is it is a different painting. You can't think of doing everything exactly the way as it's happened here, because it's not gonna it's not gonna translate as well to a large painting. You have to recognize that your marks are going to be changing. You're going to be using, a mark that's proportional on this paper. Even if you scale it up, it might not look as balanced on a larger piece of paper. In an area where there's this large amount of quiet space, I don't need to do much in here to have several subtle transitions happening. But in a larger piece of paper, my brush is going to be moving more, making more marks to fill that area. And so it might, even just those marks might throw the balance of the painting off. One last thing I'm going to do before I put this aside is just work with my shadows one more time. In the snow, right in here, there's going to be a little bit of a blue shadow, a little bit of a shadow in here. A little bit of a shadow in here, a little bit in here, and in here. Now those are looking really strong marks right now, so we take another brush and we work to lift and soften. I want it to be very subtle. So I blot. Try to get it back to looking very natural. Looking for adventure. But we're going to shake a tree under this spruce. Brace yourself. That was frosty. Snow freezing on my cheeks. This is fun. And I'm not that cold. Just my cheeks a little bit.